I never thought the corner office would feel like a cage. My name is Ethan Caldwell, 38 years old, and I'm the new Chief Operating Officer at Vanguard Tech, a sprawling tech empire perched high above Manhattan's concrete jungle. 15 years of clawing my way up the corporate ladder brought me here, late nights in fluorescent-lit offices, schmoozing with suits I despised, and closing deals that left a sour taste in my mouth. I traded sleep for ambition, my marriage for a promotion, and now, as I sat staring out at the glittering skyline, I realized the prize wasn't worth the price. The office was a fortress of glass and steel, all sharp edges and cold reflections. My desk was a battlefield of spreadsheets, coffee stains, and half-finished memos. It was 9:12 p.m. on a Thursday, and the building was eerily quiet. Most of the staff had fled hours ago, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the hum of the air conditioning. I rubbed my temples, the headache from too many espressos throbbing behind my eyes. The desk phone jolted me upright. I squinted at the caller ID, blocked. My stomach tightened. In this game, unknown calls were rarely good news. I picked up the receiver, my voice rough from disuse. Ethan Caldwell. A voice crackled through low, distorted, like it was filtered through a broken speaker. Sound effect, static crackle, a faint whisper of wind. Voice, eerie, distorted, slow. You're a dead man walking, Caldwell. They're closing in. Check the financial logs. Do it now. The line went dead with a sharp click. Sound effect, abrupt disconnect, a hollow silence. Background music swells with tense, low strings. I sat there, the receiver still pressed to my ear, my pulse hammering. Dead man walking, who the hell was this? I dropped the phone into its cradle, my hands shaking as I turned to my laptop. The screen glowed accusingly in the dim room, casting shadows across my face. I logged into Vanguard's secure server, my fingers clumsy on the keys. I wasn't a tech wizard. Hell, I still called IT when my email crashed, but I knew enough to navigate the financial logs. What I saw made my blood turn to ice. Millions of dollars gone. Siphoned off into a labyrinth of shell accounts I'd never heard of, buried under layers of encryption. And the user ID tied to every transaction mine. Ethan Caldwell. The timestamp stretched back weeks, the latest change logged at 2:47 a.m. last Friday. I hadn't been in the office then. I'd been at home, drowning my sorrows in a bottle of cheap bourbon after another screaming match with my ex-wife, Sarah, over alimony payments. No, this can't be right. This can't be happening. I scrolled further, my breath shallow. An email from my account popped up, time-stamped the same night. Subject, Phase 2, Empire Takeover. The body was a single line, proceed as planned. EC. My initials. My signature perfectly forged. I hadn't written it. I hadn't even been near a computer. Someone had hacked my account, planted this evidence, and framed me for a crime I didn't commit. This is a setup. A damn good one. I leaned back, staring at my reflection in the window, a tired man with dark circles and a 5 o'clock shadow, looking like he'd aged a decade in 10 minutes. The city lights outside twinkled like a million little knives, and I felt the weight of a noose tightening around my neck. In corporate America, when someone sets you up, they don't just want your job. They want your life. And I had no idea who they were or why. The next morning, I walked into the boardroom like a man stepping into a firing squad. The air was thick with the scent of expensive cologne and barely concealed hostility. The long mahogany table gleamed under the recessed lighting, a battlefield where careers were made or broken. Around it sat Vanguard's executive team, a gallery of predators in tailored suits. At the head was Richard Hargrove, our CEO. 62, with a mane of silver hair and eyes that could freeze a desert. He built Vanguard from a garage startup into a multi-billion-dollar beast, and he ruled it with an iron fist. To his right was Vanessa Klein, the CFO, a woman in her late 40s with a smile like a switchblade and a reputation for burying anyone who crossed her. And then there was Marcus Tate, my so-called mentor. He'd been my guide through this corporate jungle, the one who toasted my promotion with a 500 bottle of scotch just last month. But now, as I met his gaze, I saw something new, a flicker of hunger, a predator sizing up its prey. "Ethan," Hargrove said, his voice a low growl that rumbled through the room. "We've got a problem. A big one. Millions missing from the accounts. And your name's all over it?" I swallowed hard, my throat dry as sandpaper. "What are you talking about, sir?" Vanessa slid a thick folder across the table. It landed in front of me with a soft, deliberate thud. "Open it," she said, her voice dripping with venom. I did. Inside were printouts of the server logs I'd seen last night, my user ID, the altered transactions, the email with my forged signature. My heart pounded so loud I was sure they could hear it. "This isn't what it looks like," I said, my voice cracking under the strain. "I didn't do this. I was set up. I got a call last night, someone warned me to check the logs." Marcus leaned back in his chair, his arms crossed, a smirk playing on his lips. "A mysterious call that's your defense, Ethan? You sound like a paranoid conspiracy nut. The evidence is right there, your fingerprints, your account. You've been skimming millions. What did you think, we wouldn't notice?" I stared at him, my mouth open. This was the man who'd taken me under his wing, who'd coached me through every promotion, who'd promised me the world. And now he was throwing me to the wolves. My fists clenched under the table, nails digging into my palms as I fought the urge to leap across and throttle him. "I'm being framed," I insisted, my voice rising. "Someone hacked my system. This call, it was real. They told me to look at the logs before anyone else did." Hargrove raised a single eyebrow, his expression unreadable. "A call from who?" "I don't know," I admitted, the words tasting like ash. The voice was distorted. "They didn't give a name. But they saved my life by warning me." Vanessa laughed, a sharp, cruel sound that echoed off the glass walls. "A mysterious savior, that's the best you've got. You sound like a bad movie script, Ethan. Pathetic." I wanted to scream, to flip the table, to grab Marcus by his silk tie and shake the truth out of him. But I couldn't. Not yet. I needed proof, solid, irrefutable proof. Hargrove stood, his shadow looming over me like a storm cloud. "You've got 48 hours to explain yourself, Caldwell," he said, his voice cold as steel. "If you can't, you're out. And I don't just mean out of a job. We'll press charges, and you'll rot in a cell. Understood?" I sat there, the folder still open in front of me, my mind racing. 48 hours. It might as well have been 48 minutes. The clock was ticking, and the vultures were circling. Dash dash. I spent the next 24 hours in a fog of caffeine and paranoia. The Vanguard building felt like a maze of enemies, every co-worker a potential spy, every shadow a threat. I couldn't trust my assistant, who'd been too eager to fetch my coffee that morning. I couldn't trust the IT team, who'd been hovering around my office with their clipboards and smug smiles. Even the barista at the coffee cart downstairs seemed suspicious, her eyes lingering a little too long as she handed me my latte. I holed up in a corner of the server room, the hum of the machines a constant drone in my ears. Okay, Ethan, think. Where do you start? I began with the email, the one from my account with the subject Phase 2, Empire Takeover. I traced the recipient address, a generic Gmail account that had been deleted hours after the message was sent. Dead end. But the attachment, a PDF labeled Empire Takeover Proposal, was still accessible. I opened it, my eyes scanning the pages as my heart sank deeper with every line. It was a detailed plan to acquire Nexus Innovations, a mid-sized tech firm that had been Vanguard's biggest rival for years. The strategy was brutal: leak falsified financial data to crash Nexus's stock price, then swoop in with a hostile takeover at a fraction of its value. The data would be traced back to me, Ethan Caldwell, the fall guy. And at the bottom of the last page, in bold black ink, was a signature, Marcus Tate. Marcus. You son of a bitch. It all clicked. Marcus had been grooming me for this, pushing me into the coup role, feeding me just enough praise to keep me loyal, all while setting me up as his scapegoat. But why? What did he gain? I needed more names, dates, proof that went beyond a single signature. I called the only person I could trust, the one wild card I hadn't burned yet, Lena Carter. She was a junior analyst, barely 30, with a knack for digging up dirt and a quiet defiance that set her apart. I found a stairwell empty, echoey, the perfect place to avoid prying ears, and dialed her number. Sound effect, echoey stairwell ambience, faint footsteps echoing in the distance. Voice, hushed, urgent. Lena, it's Ethan. I need your help. Off the books. There was a pause, the line crackling with her breath. What do you need, Ethan? She asked, her voice low. Everything you can find on Marcus Tate and this Empire Takeover plan. I think he's framing me. And I think he's not alone. Another pause, longer this time. Then, in a whisper that sent a chill down my spine, I'll see what I can do. But Ethan, be careful. Marcus has eyes everywhere. And if he's involved, others are too. I hung up, the USB drive from my pocket feeling like a grenade in my hand. I had a lead, but time was slipping away. Lena came through faster than I expected. She met me at a dive bar on the Lower East Side, a hole-in-the-wall joint with sticky floors and a jukebox that wheezed out old rock tunes. Sound effect, clinking glasses, muffled chatter, a faint Sweet Home Alabama in the background. Voice, relieved, cautious. She slid into the booth across from me, her laptop balanced on her knees, her eyes darting around like a hunted animal. Ethan, she said, her voice barely audible over the din. You were right. This is bigger than Marcus. She flipped open the laptop and pulled up a series of encrypted files she'd extracted from a hidden server partition. I had to bypass 3 firewalls to get this, she muttered, her fingers flying over the keys. Marcus isn't working alone. Vanessa's in on it. And so is Hargrove. I felt the air leave my lungs, a cold weight settling in my chest. Hargrove, the CEO. She nodded, her face grim. They've been planning this for months. The Empire Takeover is their endgame: crush Nexus, buy it cheap, and dismantle it for parts. They're using you as the patsy to cover their tracks. Once the deal's done, they'll pin the leak on you, fire you, and probably press charges. You'll be in a cell while they're sipping champagne on a yacht somewhere. I slammed my fist on the table, the empty beer bottles rattling like bones. Lena hesitated, then slid a small USB drive across the table. It glinted under the bar's dim light, a tiny lifeline in this mess. This has everything: emails, financial records, even a recorded call between Marcus and Hargrove discussing the plan. But Ethan, if they find out you have this, they'll kill you. I mean it. I took the drive, my hand trembling as I slipped it into my pocket. They can try, I said, my voice steel. I left the bar with my heart pounding, the USB a burning secret against my thigh. The streets outside were alive with late-night traffic, horns blaring, but all I could hear was the ticking of that 48-hour deadline. The next morning, I walked into the boardroom with the USB drive a lead weight in my pocket. The executive team was assembled, their faces a mask of smug satisfaction and cold disdain. Hargrove sat at the head of the table, his silver hair catching the light like a crown, his eyes locked on me with the intensity of a predator. Vanessa lounged to his right, her manicured nails tapping a rhythm on the table. Marcus sat opposite, his expression unreadable but his posture tense. "Well, Caldwell," Hargrove said, his voice a low rumble that filled the room. I took a deep breath, my heart a war drum in my chest. I didn't steal from this company. But I know who did. And I've got the proof. I pulled the USB drive from my pocket and plugged it into the conference room's projector. The screen flared to life, displaying the damning files: emails between Marcus and Hargrove, financial records with Vanessa's annotations, the recorded call where they laughed about framing me. Sound effect, projector hum, a collective gasp from the room. Voice, steady, triumphant. "What the hell is this?" Marcus yelled, jumping to his feet, his chair toppling backward with a crash. "It's the truth," I said, my voice cutting through the chaos. "Project Eclipse, your plan to tank Nexus and pin it on me. You forged my signature, hacked my account, and thought I'd go down quietly. But you got sloppy. And I've got the evidence." The room erupted. Vanessa screamed at Marcus, her voice a shrill accusation. Marcus shouted back, his face red with fury. Hargrove just sat there, his expression shifting from shock to cold rage. "You think you've won, Caldwell?" Hargrove said, standing slowly, his voice like a blade. He reached into his jacket, and for a split second, I thought he was pulling a gun. My breath caught, my body tensing. But it was his phone. He dialed with deliberate precision. "Security," he barked. "Get in here. Now." I didn't wait. I yanked the USB drive from the projector and bolted for the door. Sound effect, footsteps pounding on hardwood, door slamming open, distant shouts of "Stop him." Background music, fast, adrenaline-pumping chase music with a relentless beat. I sprinted down the hallway, my shoes slipping on the polished floor. Alarms blared, red lights flashing. I hit the stairwell, taking the steps 2 at a time, my lungs burning. Behind me, the thud of boots echoed, security closing in. I burst into the lobby, shoving past startled receptionists, and out into the Manhattan night. I made it to a subway station, losing myself in the crowd. From a burner phone bought with cash, I sent the files to every major news outlet in the city: CNN, the New York Times, Bloomberg, along with a detailed account of the conspiracy. Within hours, the story broke like a thunderclap. Vanguard Tech's executive team was exposed, their empire crumbling under the weight of scandal. Hargrove, Marcus, and Vanessa were arrested, their mugshots plastered across every screen. The board brought in an outsider as CEO, promising a clean slate. As for me, I walked away. The corner office, the power, the prestige, it wasn't worth the blood on my hands. I sold my apartment, took the severance package, and bought a cabin by a lake upstate. The air up there is clean, the only sound the rustle of leaves and the lap of water against the shore. I fish sometimes, sit on the porch with a beer, and try to forget. But late at night, when the world is quiet, I still hear that distorted voice on the phone, warning me about the logs. I never found out who it was. A whistleblower, a rival, a ghost from Vanguard's past, maybe I never will. But whoever they were, they saved my life. And in this cutthroat world, that's a debt I can't repay.